Alright, Shalom Akim. I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rachakodash, that belongs to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, rule well, and peace and salutation. Alright.
Matter of fact, we're still scratching around here. You've probably also noticed this that has a lot of Americans scratching their heads when they see it. How many police officers in our cities have started dressing less like police officers and more like soldiers? You've seen them, right? Something we often see when we travel and we go to a lot of countries in like Latin America, for example, and it's a little disarming, right? Officer friendly is starting to look more like Commando Joe in America. Not only that, the military officials are now getting equipment, and you know what they do with their old equipment from the military? They pack it up and send it to the United States, and police departments take it. They ship it to police departments who use it and then say, well, don't worry, we'll find a use for it. After all, it's generally free, right? Lately, though, more and more police officers and police departments, I should say, here in the United States have also manifested another trend that is different in that sense, with police not only sending, vehicles, but also sophisticated military intel gathering equipment and techniques.
You see that intel gathering equipment they're talking about? These are things that is used on the men of the Lord. You understand? Because they just be watching our videos, the apostles' videos and so forth, gathering information, seeing what I could find, and keeping track of who are in different camps and who are the head of different camps and all these different things. All of these is tools that they're using for when the time comes that they want to, actually start to target men. Alright, it said in Revelations 12 verse 12, it said, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Right? It say, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a little time. And there's something that you're seeing happening very often. And they're actually trying more and more to implement these things as time go by. Like you'll see had reports going around that the US was actually putting like different colored dots outside people's houses, so they would know, because they already had their target as to who would have been compliant and who would have needed reprogramming and so forth. All these things is different methods that they're using. So when the time come that Jacob's trouble start and they actually start to target the citizens, they have a better idea who it is they will be going behind first, or what they would need to do with that particular citizen.
In other words, the same techniques they use on people overseas, supposed to be used against our war enemies, not against us. This is why this gets a little controversial. News with Rick Sanchez correspondent Michelle Greenstein has been looking into this for us, and she joins us now to share with us what she has learned.
You know, Rick, I think, again, as usual, you're hitting the nail right on the head, because we're really seeing these counterinsurgency tactics that were made for conflict abroad coming right home here. We're seeing the domestication of counterinsurgency. We're seeing it with DoD programs that give police departments military weaponry. We're seeing it with police departments using robot bombs to kill suspects. And The Intercept yesterday actually did a piece on the NSA targeting system that's now being used at the Mexico border. But most recently, we're seeing it with police using artificial intelligence to create what's called predictive policing. And this, of course, makes them even more powerful. Predictive policing algorithms are being used across the U.S. It's hard to know exactly what the numbers are because these are private companies, these are private vendors, but one of the leading vendors, called Predpol, claims that it's currently being used to protect 1 in 33 U.S. citizens right now. So I'm going to use New Orleans as an example. The New Orleans Office of Homeland Security installed hundreds of security cameras. It also pulls camera feeds from private businesses, from private homeowners, and these are systems that use artificial intelligence. So let's say you're a cop.
See, the pull feeds from private businesses and homeowners. Let's talking about think it was in one of those movies, Fast and Furious with the God's Eye. You understand? They don't get the ideas for these movies from nowhere. You understand? They just actually use things like people's phones and all these different things to tap and search out people. These are things that the government actually does do. And they just put it in movies that people are not aware of.
Looking for an Asian woman in green shorts, that's your suspect,
Right.
You will get results faster. It'll only show you the Asian women in green shorts that were at the scene at the time. So another thing these systems do is that these cameras learn the normal motion activity of a scene, and then if someone does something quote-unquote unusual, it flags the activity. And these anomaly detections are already being used in police departments.
Is that what we're seeing?
throughout the
That's
US.
what we have these.
That's correct.
So those little letters that we're seeing up there is a definition or a focusing in of something in particular.
Exactly. So it maps out all the activity on a certain street corner, in a certain, public square, whatever. And if something is irregular, it calls attention to it.
Let me say something, because I think the persons who are watching us right now would think, look, if it helps them do their police work better,
Right.
And you see all these things is like to help them zone in on people. So you have certain features about people that they would input. You understand? They're looking for particular people, to input certain features to be able to search you out between crowds and so forth.
all they're doing is modernizing their techniques. Good for them. I
Right.
want them to catch the bad guys
Exactly.
using this. It's a slippery slope thing, though, right? I mean, if they keep bringing back the stuff they're using against terrorists or our enemy, and they're using it against us, how far does this go? Where does it stop?
So like you're saying, it's very easy to sell this narrative that these cameras, that these intelligence gathering equipment are there for our protection, they're to prevent crime. But let me take you back to New Orleans, because there are ethical consequences to this kind of technology being used by law enforcement. Like, for one, discrimination. The DOJ actually investigated the New Orleans Police Department, and they found that they repeatedly violated the Constitution and federal law by using excessive force, by targeting people based on race, by targeting people based on their ability to speak English, and failed to investigate actual cases of things like sexual violence.
So you see discrimination is a big detail in it. Like, for example, those who speaking against Esau. You understand? They already have a big discrimination towards people that do that. This to show you that this is different tools that they use just to target particular people that they have their eyes on.
Tom Perez, who was the Assistant Attorney General at the time, said that these problems are, quote, wide-ranging, systematic, and deeply rooted within the culture of the department. But despite all of this, New Orleans actually entered into a partnership with a company called Palantir to make a predictive policing system. Palantir is a data mining company that actually made its money by working for the CIA and the Pentagon in Afghanistan. Now, this new system with Palantir uses arrest records, it uses police reports to predict crime, but without amending that data to address the violations that we just explained the DOJ uncovered. So we can tout this, like you almost did just now, as, great, efficient, data-driven decisions.
Correct.
But if the data itself is biased, if the system itself is biased, then the algorithms are going to replicate that bias, right? And remember, every police encounter is potentially life or death, right? These are dangerous situations. So are there any accountability measures in place?
So I think what I hear you saying is that there's some kind of bias that we already have, by the way. By the way, we all have biases. We all can be somewhat prejudiced about certain things. If we use a technology that is super advanced, whatever our bias might be, innocent or not, it's magnified.
Right, which is why we need accountability measures in place, not just in New Orleans, because that's just one example, but nationwide. And according to an NYU law review paper that came out just weeks ago, those do not exist. They concluded that current claims by predictive policing vendors do not provide sufficient assurances that their systems adequately mitigate or segregate this data, which is why opponents like the Electronic Frontier Foundation are skeptical that the police can, kind of police itself when it comes to these automated, unsupervised systems making these calls that really could have someone's life in their hands.
And I'm glad somebody's watching over this, because I think in the end, even police officers that I've spoken to who are really good guys say, they tell me they're a little concerned about how this thing continues, where every day they get more and more stuff coming in from Afghanistan and Iraq,
Right.
making them feel less like police officers serving the public.
And more like they're in war zones,
and
right?
more like they're in a war zone.
Because that is what they're training them for. They're training them so that when that civil war break out, they will be able to deal with it accordingly. Because the other nations like Russia and so forth, it's not the only ones that the US actually planning to war against. Because we know it have what the brothers just talk about called martial law that they're preparing for. They're preparing to actually lock down their own country and to force the chip on the citizens for the ones who would not take it willingly and so forth, right? Because these are the kind of things that they're actually preparing for, but they're not telling this to the citizens. But that is what they're doing, all this military training on the inside with the police and so forth, and actually training them to use particular tools and resources, because when that time breaks out, they want to be able to have things under control. When it's time for them to implement what they want to implement, they want to make sure that they could do it according to how it is they want it to be done. Because Esau is a strategist. You understand? War is what Esau about. Esau know how to strategize, to sit down and plan something. And all these things are just different things that Esau planning. So when that time comes, they'll be able to be successful. Or at least they think they'll be successful. Anyway, with that, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Ruach double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, and peace and salutation to the Akim around the world that push the shoot to the four corners of the earth. This is Yahweh from Trinidad Camp saying Shalom, Akim, stay strong.